Hey there, sports fans. We got a very special treat here on a Friday morning as we get a chance to catch up with a longtime friend, sports writer Howard Golden of the Bronx News. Talk some Yankee baseball here on a Friday. Howard, the Bronx Bombers coming off the All-Star break, playing some really great baseball in the month of July. What are your thoughts so far this season on how the Yankees have played?
Well, particularly as of late, they're doing terrific. They're 12-4 this month. They've won their fifth straight series. They're 12 games above 500, the first time in 2 years. And they look very strong.
Yankees have played really well here in the Bronx, too. Yankee Stadium's become a very good place for them these days.
Yes, they're not only drawing good crowds and making a few bucks, but they're also doing very well. They've won 21 of their last 28 contests here in the stadium, which is a 750 percentage, so they're really helping themselves by how well they do in front of the home folks.
Yankees on the road right now, but the July 31st trading deadline is upon us. I know Brian Cashman has said that he doesn't think the Yankees are going to make any moves, but do you see the Bronx Bombers maybe making some moves here for the rest of the stretch run?
I think it would be surprising if they don't, since they generally are good for making some moves. There are several veteran pitchers who have good track records over the years, and they also may be looking for another infielder who hits a little better than several of theirs right now.
I know recently on the show, one of the things that I had said to the fans at home was I had to give props to both Brett Gardner and Mark Teixeira. I had been critical of them in the past. I wasn't sure if Gardy would hit that well at the major league level, but the past 2 seasons, you can make a serious case that he's been arguably the best Yankee in pinstripes. And Mark Teixeira was someone, too, that used to bat 300. And I know he's batting in that 250, 260 range, but the home runs and the RBIs are there. He's really bounced back from some injuries. How important have both Mark and Brett been to the team this year?
They've been extremely important. The fact that Gardner was chosen as an all-star for the first time and he's approaching 32 shows the difference that he's made as of the last year or two. Teixeira as well seems to have bounced back very well from his injury, and I think we should not be neglectful of Alex Rodriguez and the contribution he's made.
You know, it's funny that you say that, Howard, because I think a lot of it with Teixeira and Gardner has been making adjustments, and you can make the same case for Alex Rodriguez. He's made some serious adjustments and just moving from being the regular third baseman to the everyday DH.
I think he's made not only an adjustment of that, but he's trying to show, I would think, without knowing his mindset, that he can do as well as far beyond what has been expected of him this year, and could do it without any artificial stimulus.
And Alex has really been the comeback player of the year. Probably should have been an all-star this year as well.
I agree with you. I could understand why they didn't want to take the focus away from other people, as he would have, as he always is, becomes the center of attention. He probably prefers that he doesn't as well. But he has done an outstanding job. It's barely a little more than half the season, and he already has 20 home runs. And he's hitting like in the 280s.
Yankees quickly approaching on almost having a double-figure lead in the American League East. Do you see them winning this division? I know a couple of the teams have been up and down, but the Yankees have made a strong case for being one of the best teams in the American League this year.
It looks like it right now. With the lead that they've had, they haven't had a 12 game above 500 in a couple of years. They probably have a bigger lead now than they also have in a couple of years, and it's already past halfway mark of the season. It looks to me good because they'll be home as much as they'll be on the road, and they have a great advantage here in the stadium.
Now, New Yorkers here in this town have not really been accustomed to the playoffs, which is so hard to say the last couple of years, both in the Bronx and then across the way in Queens with the Mets, but I think there's a good chance this year that both the Yankees and the Mets could make the playoffs.
I think there's a very good chance, particularly here in the Bronx, with how the Yankees have done, and the fact that this would be, if they don't do it the third straight year, which I doubt will go over well with ownership, the third straight year without a playoff, I think the Mets have an opportunity too. They're only a couple of games behind Washington, which has a very strong club, and they'll also be playing their National League East opponents as the year passes on.
I think it would be remiss not to mention the Mets. I know that their offense has struggled a little bit, but the pitching has been so incredible. A lot of young up-and-coming stars in that rotation. What are your thoughts and feelings about the Mets moving forward in the second half, and then just the future for this amazing club?
Well, I think even more than the second half, the next several years, They have very young pitching. They have very strong pitching. They have even with their new Mats, who got injured, and then should have him as well yes, local boy in the years to come. I think they have great strength in their pitching. I think, though, their hitting has a great deal to be desired, and I think it's questionable, to be honest, whether the organization will make the kind of moves that are necessary to get the hitting that can conform with their outstanding pitching.
Howard, you cover both the Yankees and the Mets for the Bronx News. Talk a little bit about some of the articles that you have in the paper these days. You do such a fantastic job, and you've been a longtime friend of the show. Been in the studio and at the ballpark. We love having you on.
You're more than kind. I wrote about something not so much with the game that I covered last week, this past few days, which was a press conference held across the street in what was the stadium, not accidentally, about a new Lou Gehrig film which is going to be produced. And the producer of it, and who was there and I got to speak with, is the grandson of George Steinbrenner, Robert Malloy, a young fellow, like maybe in the mid-20s at the most. And so I think it'll be interesting. What they're trying to do is put together a film that not only speaks about him as a player, but speaks about him as a human being and how he came to terms and how he conducted himself while suffering with ALS, which they now term the Lou Gehrig disease. And even though this is just the first announcement and there's a very long way to go, they have a great precedent with The Pride of the Yankees, which was shown in 1942 and yet got 11 Academy Award nominations. So perhaps we'll be seeing another inspirational and moving film of the great Yankee Lou Gehrig and the great human being Lou Gehrig in the future, who also lived in the Bronx even after his days as a Yankee. He lived in Riverdale, where he worked for the probation department for the city of New York up until he could no longer work.
We definitely love reading the articles in the Bronx News, and we love you taking the time out here today. Excited to see if the Yankees could pull things together here in the second half.
I think it'll be a great excitement because they've drawn in excess of 40,000 several times within their 6-game homestand that previously just ended. And I think it'll be a great excitement to the city, to the Bronx, and to Yankee fans all over the world.
Thanks again, Howard.
Thank you.
That was the 4-on-1 on Gotham baseball here in New York with Bronx News reporter Howard Golden, talking a little bit of the Yankees, a little bit of the Mets. But baseball season, of course, right now the star of the show here in New York sports. But football just around the corner. Training camps are now set to open. Both the Giants and Jets will be back in business. We'll have more coverage from the Giants next week, but we wanted to catch you up on some of the things that have been going on. One of the big stars of the offseason has been Giants wide receiver Odell Beckham, who had, of course, the catch of arguably the century. We wanted to turn back the clock, take a look back at that catch, and get you filled in on some football. The one-handed grab by Beckham was compared tonight to that great catch by David Tyree in the Super Bowl, but Beckham talked about making such a great catch and having it come in a loss.
The ball couldn't have been put anywhere else. Perfect spiral. A ball like that, it makes it a lot easier to make a catch like that. You know, it really means nothing without a win. You still go home at the end of the day with a loss, and that's just not a good feeling.
He's a phenomenal talent. That's something that he works on each and every day. He works on a warm-up. So for him, it's just another day in the park. For us, it's wow. But he's a guy. He's a playmaker. He's hungry. He has a lot of passion for the game, and I don't see one guy stopping him.
Both head coach Tom Coughlin and star quarterback Eli Manning talked about the lost season in the postgame.
You leave Dallas 3 minutes. That's a lot of time for them. But it's still, disappointing. With a minute left, 3 timeouts, all we need is get in field goal range and not get a first down. That situation is disappointing.
I thought we had a lot of numbers tonight. I thought a lot of people contributed. Obviously, Beckham had the great catch, which excited everybody. But we weren't able to win. So back to the drawing board we go.
We'll have more on the Giants and the Jets next week in studio. That's your sports. I'm Bobby C.